Hi everybody, this is Gil. I just wanted to follow up quickly on this morning's webinar because I think the whole thing was pretty much blown out of the water in terms of the thesis on the market and going lower, and the essential concept here is that regardless of what you think, you have to go with the information you're getting in real time. And we can see on the NASDAQ Composite Index right here, what happened is you tested the lows for the third time actually. So here's the low here. You test 1, 2, 3, and we come off. You're still not getting any real strong bottoming signals, but I think with Visa up, Amazon up, Biogen up, and I think Google is now at trading 5:30 after hours. I think what you're seeing here is a continuation of the bounce tomorrow. So, you know, one of the things I did point out during the webinar is that you could be triangulating here. So you're just forming a tighter and tighter triangle, and it's possible we could break out through the highs if you draw a line across the top. So obviously that brings up the question, you know, what do you do? In my situation, it was nice to have been short Yahoo. So if we look at all securities here real quickly, and we look at Yahoo, that was a nice short yesterday, and the breakdown, as I pointed out, down to the 200-day or the 40-week line was an area to be covering. So in some sense, if I'm following my rules in terms of covering my shorts, and this is a pretty good sized position for me, about 70%, then that sort of forces me out of some of my shorts. Now I was trying to test some of these other shorts in Amgen, and I got out of that with a small profit. F5 was another one, got out of that with a small profit, and there's a couple others like that. Mainly because I turned with the market very quickly. And, you know, I admit it's difficult. You know, it seems whenever you think that something is definitive about the market and it's definitely going to break apart, because everything looked pretty bad, and then all of a sudden a lot of things just whip around, and that's not unusual for the QE market. So what I'm looking for here is, you know, what do you want to look at on the long side? And for me, I just flipped back into my previous long positions, such as Starbucks, Lanet companies, Zeltic, or however you pronounce it, Zeltique, if it's French, therapeutics or anesthetics or aesthetics or whatever the heck it is. All I know is a fat people stock. That's all I need to know. And the pattern looked okay. So when it was flipping back around off the lows of the day, you could come back after it around midday, and it ended up moving up on higher volume today. So overall, I think some of these look okay. So what I want to do is go through my watch list right now with you guys so you can get a sense of what I'm looking at for tomorrow. AGS Pharmaceuticals comes out with earnings on March 5th, so you got a lot of time. And so basically what's happened here is you broke out, you ran up, you pulled back once, twice. Now you're getting a lot of red up here, but I don't know if that's necessarily a problem. But the issue here is that you're close to the 50-day, and probably if you look at a weekly chart, let's go to a weekly chart real quickly here, you can see that it's actually at the 10-week line right here. So let me blow that up if you can't see it. So it is finding support at the 10-week line and the top of the prior base. So you might consider that to be possibly viable on the pullback, okay? Acorn, somebody wanted to short it today in today's webinar, but this thing looks to me like it wants to turn and go higher. You had a pocket pivot type move yesterday, but it didn't hold. Comes back, tests the 10-day. And earnings come out in early March, on March 2nd, according to this date here, and you're going code blue. So this actually looks like it wants to break out, even though it is an improper double bottom. So that's something to keep an eye on. Alexion Pharmaceuticals closed at the top of near the top of the range today and above the 50-day. So you'd have to look at that as a big outside reversal and a pocket pivot. So if you bought it, maybe you could use the 50-day as a quick downside stop. Alibaba was on my buy watch list, but that's pretty well cooked, so you can forget about that for now. Ambarella pulling in. Notice how the longer-term bongo and force indexes are remaining blue. You're getting some red as it backs and fills, but volume's pulling down and remaining well below average on the pullback down to the 20-day line, which is this line right along here. So that looks not too bad. It may actually come out of there and go higher. Apple, you know, going higher. If the market goes higher, Apple goes higher. So whatever I think about it, possibly being everything being cooked into it already in terms of you know, being earnings and the news being great at the top. I mean, that can all go out the window if the technical action shows you something else. Now with Apple doing well, one of their big suppliers, which is forming a cup with a handle here, and actually gapped out here, okay, is ARM Holdings. And this is one I was looking at as a short earlier, and then, of course, that went out the window. And that's okay. As I tweeted earlier today, sometimes when you're wrong, that information can help you in a very profitable way if you use it correctly and accept the fact that you're wrong and are able to turn quickly rather than trying to be stubborn and fight what you're seeing on the tape. And so here we have a stock going straight across, going code blue, volume stand below average, probably going higher. Earnings come out in a couple of weeks, so keep that in mind. Exalta, this one has not panned out, so we can forget about that. I've been watching Baidu on the undercut. Earnings come out in a couple of weeks. I don't know if this comes out here, but it's not one I'm looking to buy. Barracuda Network's pretty well off my list. Biogen's going to gap up tomorrow, trading after hours right now at 376, so we're going to be out to new highs tomorrow. That might be a breakout that's possibly viable. It's a big move after hours. Amazon is also cruising at about 348 right now, and Google pushing positive at 524. So we got three of them moving. Visa's moving. So I think it's pretty much a hands-down conclusion that we're going to open up tomorrow, and where we go from there, I guess, is anybody's guess. But we could break out, and if we do, you want to be ready. So that's what the whole point of this is. Also, to really correct this morning's webinar, which as far as I'm concerned is completely useless based on new information, and that, my friends, is the way of the market. And you either accept it or you die, and that's pretty much the way I operate. So, and that sort of attitude is what helped me be up nicely for the last 2 years, and I intend to do that again this year, and certainly I'm not going to get stubborn. Cavium, a nice reversal on a pocket pivot, probably going to break out and go higher. Earnings already came out, so you're in the clear there. The CDK Global's hanging in there, but earnings come out, and I think next week, so I don't want to go there. Celgene turning with the other ones. They come out with earnings, I think, tomorrow, unless they already did. Maybe they did. I have to check that. But if they did, you might watch this one. It may turn and go with the groups. Chipotle coming out next week with earnings, hanging in there tight, but not something I want to touch. CyberArk is a dog. Here's El Pollo Loco. I think I talked about it down in here a couple of weeks ago, maybe on the stock hunting webinar last Saturday, but you came out of here real quickly and popped up. Now you're pulled back into the 50-day over the last couple of days, and now you're moving up again. You get another pocket pivot today. That's what these blue bars are telling you. It's telling you it's a pocket pivot volume signature. Whether it actually is a pocket pivot, a bona fide pocket pivot, depends on the position on the chart, so you've got to keep an eye on that sort of thing. Let's see, Electronic Arts, nice Bible gap up and moving higher. My son's going to give me grief for not buying that one. ExamWorks, I'm just watching this, nothing going on here. Earnings come out at the end of February. Facebook, that's a pocket pivot. Regardless of what I might have thought about the stock earlier today on the short side or as a short sale target, no go. And that's the bottom line. So you reverse, you're going code blue here. Volume up big today on a pocket pivot reversal. That looks like it wants to go higher, and I'm sure it will tomorrow if the market opens up. Here's a cheesy little biotech, trades 380,000, Fibrogen. Pulling back to the top of this base, I don't know what that means, but I don't think I want to play there. FireEye, just keeping an eye on that. That's in the cyber security group. Freescale, there's a Bible gap up, and stock moving higher again today. I think it's a little extended. GoPro coming out with earnings next week. I'd let that lie. Grubhub, looking doggy and not really interesting to me. There's the index there. GW Pharmaceuticals comes out with earnings next week, but I don't really care for the way it's acting. Unable to really hold up very well, so I think I'd leave this alone, especially going into earnings. I think situations where earnings have already come out, that's probably where you want to be, or say in the case of a company like Lanet or Zeltiq, they already pre-announced, so there's no real surprises there. And I think the key with Zeltiq, today there was some news that they're going to be covered by some insurance or something, and that was positive, and that's always a key thing for a procedure or device company to make sure that the insurance is going to cover them. So I think that's positive, and I think Zeltiq goes higher. We'll get to that in a little bit. I think that's at the end of my list. Here's a pocket pivot move on Home Depot. Nice slow name. Infinera, as I pointed out, it hasn't busted the low of this gap up day. So it's not, and it's closed above that 50, I think it's 1636 low here. Is that right? Yeah. And so it is still in play. It's going code blue. Maybe it goes higher. After hours JDSU, I don't think impressed on earnings, but I noticed that Juniper has, and that's probably positive for the group. So it might be in play. It trades pretty liquid, 1 million A shares for a $16 stock, so close to 30 million or so in daily dollar volume. That one's okay. Not sure if it's a big stock, so I kind of like Intrexon after all the noise here. They ran up and then they announced the secondary, so they got slammed. The secondary was priced at 27 bucks right off the 50-day, and it was able to rally. You get a pocket pivot, or this is actually a 5-day pocket pivot here, and then you pull back into the 20-day. And I like the way volume dries up, and I think probably looking good to buy right there using the 20-day as your quick stop. JD.com looked like it wanted to come out, but with the news on BABA today, no go there. Here's JetBlue Airways. Came out with earnings today. Nice big pocket pivot and a breakout. LCI, which I own, looks good here on the turn off the lows of the day and going code blue. After this Bible gap up, it looks to me like it just wants to go higher. Earnings come out next week, but they already pre-announced, as I just mentioned. LinkedIn just hanging around the 50-day, not a short, not a long. Wait and see what happens when earnings come out. MasterCard at the lows of its base probably reacts to Visa, and I think they come out tomorrow with earnings. Medivation hanging tight here, comes out with earnings at the end of February, showing some good colors here, but nothing really exciting there. Mercado Libre comes out with earnings at the end of February. It's holding the 65-day, but nothing really going on here. Notice how you get the big gray bars indicating that you may get an oversold, or you have an oversold condition here, and it has rallied. And it's possible this may go higher, but it's a somewhat thinner stock. Michael's Companies, that had a nice gap up. Let's check that out. Big gap up here, pulling in to test the top of the base. If the volume's light, that would seem to me to be normal, given that it came straight up off the lows of the base, and so you're pulling back in now. And I might keep an eye on this if the volume is light tomorrow on another little pullback, or if it holds. Newlink Genetics not happening for me. NXP comes out with earnings next week. They actually held the 50-day today on the pullback with the market, and closed at the peak of the range. Looks okay, but with earnings next week, I don't know if I need to play. Here's Palo Alto Network coming in with a pocket pivot today, and that's coming right off the 20 and 10-day moving averages. You're going code blue. That looks good. And closed today at 129.29, which is an all-time high close. So that looks good. That's a strong name. Qualys is another cybersecurity name holding along. The 10-day earnings come out, I think, the week after next. So, again, not so sure anything's going to happen. Here's this Relipsa coming down to the top of the base. Earnings come out in about 3 weeks. Not something I'm that interested in. Restoration Hardware, earnings come out at the end of March. So this one might be viable. It's holding along the 50-day on the pullback back to the top of the base. So if we go to my crosshairs here, you can see here's the top of the base. So you pulled right back in here, and now you're coming off. Maybe that works. I don't know. Not really my favorite name, but if it's not, that probably means it is going to go higher. Sierra Wireless, earnings come out next week. Kind of dying on the vine after this great run following the Bible gap up. Skyworks Solutions continuing higher, but extended, so not really anything to look at. Southwest continuing higher after the Bible gap up. Spirit Aerosystems is moving higher. Earnings come out next week, so I'm not so sure I want to play there. Starbucks, I jumped right back into Starbucks earlier today, and it moved higher for me, so that was nice to see. Looks like you're 4 days after the Bible gap up. It should start to move out of here, and I'd say within a day or two it should get up above the 90 level if it's going to be viable. But if the market goes, again, it's a big stock, NASDAQ name, it should go higher, and you can see that it's going code blue on my colors up here. So, and earnings are out of the way. That's the other nice thing. Take-Two Interactive. They were moving with Electronic Arts. These guys make Grand Theft Auto. At least that's what my son tells me, and that's a big game. And they're coming out with a new version, I guess. And I think if Electronic Arts is doing well, these guys probably are doing well too. But earnings come out next week, so you have to decide whether you'd want to play that in the expectation that they're going to mimic Electronic Arts earnings. Taser holding along the 10 and 20 day. This stock to me is viable whenever it pulls down into the 10 or 20 day, and that's the way you handle it. You don't chase the strength in it. Earnings come out at the end of February, still in play, going code blue. So that looks okay. I might pick up some shares tomorrow depending on how it opens. Tessera Technologies comes out with earnings in 2 weeks, 2/10/15 it says right here on the earnings due date, and you had a pocket pivot today coming off the 10-day. That looks like it wants to go higher. Children's Place, I've been following this one just because the chart looks pretty decent, and you're pulling back into the 50-day. Earnings come out at the beginning of March, so this might try to come out here, but you've been getting some increased selling volume here, which I'm not so sure is all that thrilling for me. I kind of like what I have, the Starbucks, the Lanet, and the Zeltic. Maybe I look at Exxon, XON, and Trexon, maybe Cavium tomorrow, maybe Taser, maybe Infineon. This is the QRVO, which is the merger of RF micro devices and Triquint, and that's acting well. It's trying to move higher here. It looks a little funky there, but you can make it look less funky if you just kind of spread it out. And what you see here is that you have this little cup. You could throw the other charts in here, and I guess there's an uptrend before. But basically, this chart starts when the merger was completed and the two companies became traded as one. So what you do is you get a pullback to the top of this little cup today, and you hold on pretty good volume, and it is a pocket pivot. So probably in a buyable position, trades good volume. So this one might be okay. Earnings come out, though, maybe today after the... I mean, I got to check this one. Let's see. Give me one sec here. It looks like they did come out with earnings after the close. People are raising their targets on the stock to 85, so probably goes higher tomorrow. So I think you want to keep an eye on that one based on today's action. Trading 75.15 by 76 after hours. So let me double check that and see that that was the earnings report. They actually started down 5.7% in reaction to disappointing earnings. I guess that was this morning. And I don't know. This looks like it's probably going to go higher. So I'd be watching this in the morning. If you got a little pullback, you might want to come in on that and watch that. So that's going to be on my watch list for tomorrow. Vasco data, nothing really going on here. It just can't get up off the lows of the base. So no sense playing with it. BCA Antec, this is acting okay. Woof. After the pocket pivot here, it's been running higher, but a little bit extended. Earnings come out in 2 weeks. Viva Systems coming out with earnings in early March. This might be viable here. Notice most of these are going code blue, and the bongos have never changed color. You get a little red here, but that's normal on a pullback. You get a pocket pivot here, 5-day pocket pivot, but that's extended. You're pulling in, might be in a viable spot. It trades 1 million shares a day. That's not bad. Smaller stock, but this one may try to go higher. I'd keep an eye on it as well tomorrow. VRNT, that's out the window. Virgin America, someone wanted to short it today in the webinar. I should also point out that today, earlier in the day, I was getting a number of emails, even from some of my hedge fund friends wanting to short LinkedIn, which I thought was a little bit silly because they're already down. And I'll get to that in just 1 second. Visa is going to open up around 257, so it's going to be around its 50-day moving average. Maybe it opens up and then just keeps powering through. So I'd watch that too, but I'm not so sure about this. But I just keep an eye on it. If you can find a reference point on the long position, then maybe you could try it. But again, it had already come down, so if you're short at the 50-day, you did okay over 4 days or so. And you're getting a little long in the tooth today. And the other thing is people starting to email me wanting to short this, that, and the other thing, and that's almost always a sign. And I have to admit that I missed that this morning. I should have probably brought that up during the webinar, but the way things were looking to me and the fact that I was up reasonably well on the short side, mostly thanks to Yahoo, which I probably should have recognized as an isolated case where I'm making big money and everything else had pretty much already come down. So, for example, just real quickly, all securities go to... like Google, okay, we were looking at that today, and you got resistance here, but see, that's where you wanted to short it. Now you're all the way down here, and you think you're going to make money shorting it? Not likely. You know, you're getting into a riskier area. Same thing with something like Workday. It's down 4 days. You know, something like Splunk, down 4 days again, undercutting these lows, and you're kind of getting a little bit long in the tooth. That doesn't mean that it might run into resistance at the 200-day and head lower from there, but nothing happening there. F5 actually rallied back up pretty strongly, so I made maybe $1 on that. But on a day like today, I'd be happy taking $1 on a short position than sitting there like a moron trying to fight the trend. And for any of you who are following me on Twitter, when the Dow is up 150, I pretty much tweeted that the Dow's going through 200. You can feel it. And I've seen this picture play out so many times when the ugly duckling rises out of the market swamp and dines on the flesh of short sellers coming in late. And so there's some classic QE sort of ugly duckling features of today, and of course the MDM goes to a sell signal, and that was probably what sealed the deal. I don't know, because when things start to look one way in this market, they generally are not, and that's just the way of this market. And I find that being flexible, and it's okay to be wrong, okay? And when I take positions, I have conviction when I take positions. That's how you make big money. But in addition to that conviction, I also recognize that there is my conviction and then there's reality. And the reality is what's going on my screen in terms of what's happening in the market tape and the price volume action. And the key is to have conviction, but also flexibility. Yes, lady, I heard you. Thank you. Let me turn that down. The thing is, yes, have conviction when the price volume is showing you what you need to see. As soon as it starts showing you what you don't want to see, or what's telling you you're wrong, you need to recognize that and have the flexibility to flip the other way. And that's something I think with my level of experience now, trading for a quarter of a century and seeing pretty much every kind of market since the early 1990s, 1991 I think is when I started, I've developed the ability to be very flexible. And I remember working for Bill O'Neill, that's the one thing that struck me about him, is that he would have a lot of conviction when he did something, but as soon as he could feel that he was wrong, or the market was telling him that he was wrong and he could read it, it's not like you have a crystal ball. You have to see what's going on and then be able to recognize it. He would turn, and he would turn on a dime, and he could be short something or selling it and then realizing it's bottoming out and turning. He'd come right back in and go long again, without any flinching or remorse or anything. And I know a lot of people have trouble getting through that psychological barrier. But it's all about making money, people. It's not about being right and or becoming wedded to your opinion. And as Livermore said, and I'm paraphrasing Livermore, when you're on the wrong side of the market and you realize you are on the wrong side of the market, the only thing left to do is to get on the right side of the market. And that's a paraphrase. I know there's some people who are extremely anal retentive, wanted to correct me on the Twitter side, but that just proves to me they don't really have much to do, and they really should be spending their energy figuring out what to do in the market. But I got a kick out of that in any case. And so anyways, hopefully you guys get some ideas about what I'm looking at, and it's kind of what my daily analysis will show me, and I will operate on that basis. Tomorrow I have my list of things to watch, and we'll just see how things pan out. And again, maintain flexibility. If I see short sale targets run into resistance, I have no problem flipping back to the short side. And the way this market acts, who knows what's going to happen. But I do think you have to go with the flow and be alert to what is happening and open to what is happening. And don't suffer also from what do they call it? I'm trying to remember from the book that I'm reading, Trade Mindfully, the recency effect. So just because, we looked at something like Facebook earlier today and it looked like a short sale, throw that completely out the window. Erase that from all of your thinking because it is no longer relevant. What you're looking at right here on this chart right now is what's relevant. And what is it telling you? It's telling you that it had a pocket pivot on a very strong high volume reversal to the upside. I don't hate Facebook. I don't love Facebook. But if it wants to go higher, I have no problem buying it, and neither should you. Anyways, that's all I've got. So consider this a correction of this morning's webinar and also a reaction in response to the market closure, which I think was very dramatic, but definitely not unusual for a QE market. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.